You have to wade through a lot of stories in the newspaper these days. And some of them don't make you feel very good. Wars, riots, murders. But once in a while you come across one that makes you feel real good inside. I've just finished reading that sort of an article. It has a double interest to me because the Fisher family had something to do with it. You know, I'd like to tell you how it all began. See, I was down at the drugstore one evening, helping Carl with his inventory, when... Oh, I'm sorry.
Could you please help us? My boy...
Oh, well, what happened? Come in, come in. Take it easy, son. We'll have you fixed up in a jiffy. Oh, Dad, get that first aid kit, will you? Yeah. There we are. Well, now. Well, I've seen a lot of shiners in my time, but I think that's going to take a prize.
You think he'll be all right?
I've seen my own boys look a lot worse. Here we are, Carl. What happened?
Some boy beat him up. He was down at the playground. He wanted to play baseball with them. And when I got there to pick him up, I found him like this.
What was the trouble, son?
I don't know.
You don't know?
They called him a foreigner.
Oh, I see. And where are you from, Mrs.
Lamino. Mrs. Alvarez Lamino. And this is my boy, Alvarez Jr. We're from Seattle. We moved here about a week ago.
Well, what I meant was,
I know what you meant. We're Filipinos.
Who would do a thing like this, Miss Lamino?
Alvarez said he didn't know their names.
And they said if I ever came back, they'd beat me up again, only worse. They said they didn't want any foreigner like me playing ball on their team.
Well, what team do you mean, Alvarez?
I don't know, but they were playing tonight at the playground.
You mean down at the Central Playground?
Yes, sir.
The whole team tell you that you couldn't play?
No, sir. There were just 2 boys who hit me, and the rest just stood around and laughed.
I can't understand it. I just can't.
Maybe you ought to report this to the police.
What good would that do? Except cause more trouble.
But why did they do this to me?
I don't know, Alvarez. I knew there were people like that in the world, but I didn't know we had any around here in Middleburg.
Of course, they're only children.
Yes, but when you find children acting that way, it's usually a sign that their parents think the same way themselves. A thing like this happening on our public playgrounds. Something ought to be done about it.
But I don't want to cause any trouble.
Well, there you are.
Thank you.
How much will that be?
Oh, nothing at all. Forget about it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You're very nice, Mr.
Oh, Carl Fisher. I'm sorry, Miss Lamino. And this is my father, Mr. Fisher.
How do you do?
Do you live near here?
Yes, only a few blocks. We'll be all right.
Well, you better get the boy to a doctor in the morning, just to be sure.
Thank you, I will. And thanks again for everything. Come on, Alvarez. We'll go home now.
Come on, Freddie. You're going to be late for school.
Morning, boys.
Morning, Dad.
Go, Dad.
Freddie, weren't you down at the playground last night?
Yeah, sure, Dad. Why?
I understand some of the boys ganged up on a little Filipino boy.
What was it all about, Dad?
Well, they didn't like the idea of a foreigner playing in their team, and so they beat him up.
No kidding. Here in Middleburg?
I know, it's hard to believe, but I dressed up his cuts and bruises myself last night.
Did the boy say who hit him?
No, he's new here. He didn't know who they were. Were you at the park when it happened, Freddie?
Yes. And I saw the fight.
You saw it?
Well, why didn't you say so?
Well, I was going to.
You didn't hit him, did you, Freddie?
Oh, no. I didn't.
Who did?
I can't tell you.
Why not?
Well, I just can't.
Now, Freddie, tell me exactly what happened. Come on, come on.
Well, I went to the park to sign up for the baseball tournament.
I know all that. I want to know about this boy.
Well, he signed up like the rest of us, and on the way home it happened.
What happened?
This Alvarez, that's the Filipino kid, they told him that they didn't want him around and that he couldn't play with us. And when he told them that he had as much right there as they did, they called him a foreigner and started beating him up.
And what did you do, Freddie?
Well, I just stood there and watched. And when Alvarez ran, I was so scared, I ran too.
Didn't you even try and stop them?
Well, it happened so quick, I didn't know what to do.
Who were the boys, Freddie?
But, Dad, I just can't tell on them.
Now, Freddie.
I'm sorry.
Freddie, I understand your loyalty to your friends. But don't you think they did wrong?
Yes.
Do you think it's right that you should be protecting someone who did wrong?
No, Dad. But if I tell you, then they'll know that I'm the one who told on them.
Yes, I understand. Well, we'll talk about it some other time. Come on, boys, we better get down to breakfast. Your mother will raise the roof.
What's the matter, Dad? Your mind doesn't seem to be on your work.
No, I guess it isn't, Pete. Been thinking all day about that boy Alvarez.
Maybe you're making too much of it, Dad. They're just little kids. They'll get over it.
Yes, they'll get over it. But will Alvarez get over it?
See what you mean.
It's not only that, Pete. I wonder how often that sort of thing goes on around here and we don't hear about it. Well, maybe it ought to be brought out into the open.
How?
Well, perhaps I could send a letter into the newspaper.
Well, what good'll that do?
Start people thinking. Maybe keep it from happening again.
Hello, boys.
Hi, Grandpa.
What you doing?
Oh, I thought I'd finish up this magazine rack for Anna.
You know, while I was out for a little walk, I stopped by to visit that Mrs. Lamino.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
How'd you happen to find her?
Oh, it wasn't so hard.
Where does she live?
5847 B Street. Nice little bungalow. Not far from this store.
How's the boy?
Well, his eye is going to be all right. But I'm not so sure how Alvarez is going to be.
Taking it pretty hard, huh?
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
I suppose his dad is pretty upset about it.
His dad is dead. He was killed during the war. Some friend of Mrs. Lamino got her a job in town. That's how they happened to come here.
Funny thing is, Father was a soldier in the American Army, and those kids called him a foreigner.
From the way she talked, I gather he died in action. Had a medal for something or other.
Well, that settles it.
That settles what?
I was thinking about it down at the store today, and I dashed off a letter to send to the newspaper. And then after I'd done it, I wasn't so sure I ought to send it.
Well, let's hear it, Carl.
Well, it's just a kind of a rough draft.
Yeah, Dad, let's read it.
Well, I addressed it to the editor of the Middleburg Citizen.
Mom thought you'd like to try out her new cookies.
Thanks, Freddie.
Thanks, Freddie. Sit him down, Pete.
Freddie, maybe you ought to hear this, too. Sit down.
Right here. That's it.
To the editor of the Middleburg Citizen. Dear sir, last Thursday evening, a little Filipino boy was beaten up by a group of other boys. They didn't want him to play on a baseball team with them because his skin and his name are different from theirs. Perhaps these boys didn't stop to think that their own ancestors, like this boy's, or yours and mine, once were foreigners too. Or perhaps the parents of these boys have never made it clear to their sons what American really means, and that our differences, like the various reinforcements of a mighty building, give us strength under God as a great nation. I hope the youngsters who beat up this Filipino boy will go to him and shake hands and maybe gain a new friend. They'll be surprised to learn how good Christian love instead of hate can make you feel. Sincerely, Carl Fisher.
That's good, Carl.
Gee, swell, Dad. Real swell. Send it in.
Come in.
Morning, Chief.
Hello, Joe. Say, look into this. There might be a story behind it.
What's the angle?
It's about some kids beating up a Filipino.
Carl Fisher, I know him. He runs a drugstore.
Yeah, I know him, too.
He's a nice guy. Quite active in the church I used to go to. Our kids play together, you know.
Yes, I know. Cover that trial down at the courthouse. Something might develop there today. And if you have time, check up with Carl Fisher on that letter.
Okay, Chief.
Hi. Oh, Verse, wait a minute. How's your eye? It's all right. I'm sorry about the other night, but I don't think I could have stopped him. That's all right. It was my dad who fixed you up. He runs the drugstore. Oh, is that your father? Yeah. Say, what position do you play? I'm a pitcher. Yeah? I'm a catcher.
Hey, get a load of the pals. I thought we told you to stay away from here.
Why don't you guys leave him alone? What do you got against him anyhow?
Are you trying to be funny?
You leave him alone. He's got as much right here as you have.
Oh, he does he? Well, he don't belong around here. And he better go back where he came from.
Forget it, Freddie. I'll go. You're Stan. And if you keep picking on him, I'll tell everybody that you're the ones who beat him up.
Oh, a squealer, huh? Well, you squeal, and you'll get the same thing we gave him, only worse, see? Come on, Willie, let's go.
Thanks, Freddie. I guess I better go home now. Say, why don't you pitch a few to me? I better not. Why not? You heard what they said. I don't want you to get beat up, too. They wouldn't. Come on. You stay here, and I'll go down by the backstop.
Yes, sir. May I help you?
Hi, Sonny. Is the boss in?
Just a minute. I'll see. Mr. Fisher, someone wants to see you.
Well, Joe Turner, how are you?
Hello, Carl.
Haven't seen you for a long time.
Good to see you again.
Let's have some coffee, Smitty. Well, how are things?
Oh, usual thing. I've been pretty busy. Matter of fact, I came here on business.
Yeah? What's on your mind?
Well, my boss sent me to find out about this letter. Did you write it?
Yes, I did, Joe. Why are they assigning a reporter to this?
You know, it's just routine, Carl. I always check on every story. They get so many different letters from so many crackpots that they always have to check stories.
Well, if I saw much of that kind of thing going on in Middleburg, I'd become a crackpot myself, Joe.
Hey, aren't you making an awful lot of fuss about a bunch of kids scrapping?
No, it isn't just a bunch of kids scrapping. It's the idea behind it. Somebody must have planted such ideas in those kids' heads. Probably their parents. It might not be easy for them to get over that kind of hatred.
If you want to be a crusader with the world falling to pieces like it is, there are plenty of important things to think about.
Maybe that's why the world is falling to pieces, Joe. And boy and man can't get along together. Isn't that the root of the whole thing?
I don't know, Carl. Sometimes I think all our troubles are caused by foreigners. Maybe it'd be a good idea if they went back to where they came from.
The part that bothered me most was when Joe Turner himself said that those foreigners ought to go back where they came from.
That's just the kind of talk the kids pick up.
Dad,
Yes, Freddie?
I've just got to tell you something.
All right, Freddie, what is it?
The boys that beat up Alvarez, they're Bill Turner and Eddie Walsh.
Bill Turner?
Yeah. This morning he told Alvarez again to stay away from the park. I told him to leave him alone, and then he told me if I ever told on him, he'd beat me up too.
Well, I guess it's the usual thing. Like father, like son.
Thanks, Freddie. I know it took a lot of courage to say that.
What are you gonna do, Dad?
Well, I don't quite know yet. I ought to do something, but I don't know just what.
Hi, Carl.
Hello, Joe.
What's this about you having a lead on a story for me?
I'm sorry, Joe. This is something I've got to show you. I want you to meet a couple of people. I'll pick you up after dinner.
Oh, but I'm a busy man, Carl.
Too busy to get a story?
Okay, if you put it that way. See you about 7, huh?
See you at 7.
Okay.
Now, look, Carl, isn't it about time you opened up before we go in the house?
Don't be impatient, Joe.
Well, whose house is it?
You'll meet them in a moment. Come along.
Oh, hello, Mr. Fisher. Come in.
Thank you. Mrs. Lamino, I'd like you to know Mr. Turner.
How do you do?
How do you do?
And this is her son, Alvarez.
Hello, Mr. Fisher.
Hi, son.
Hi.
Won't you sit down?
Is this the kid you wrote about in your letter?
That's right, Joe.
Now, look, Carl, I told you before. My paper isn't interested in a story like this.
The whole story wasn't in the letter, Joe. Joe, this is a picture of Alvarez's father. As you can see, he's, that is, he was a sergeant in the American Army.
Was?
Yes, he was killed on the battlefield. At Heartbreak Ridge, wasn't it, Ms. Lamino?
That's right.
According to the medal he received, he died in action, sacrificing himself to hold a certain point, almost single-handed, long enough to let his American buddies get through. This is what the government awarded him after his death.
Congressional Medal of Honor.
Yes, Joe. The Congressional Medal of Honor. The highest award our country can give. So you see, Joe, when those kids beat up Alvarez the other night and called him a foreigner, it made his mother wonder just what her husband had died for. Wouldn't you wonder too, Joe?
Yeah, I guess I would. Mrs. Lamino, where are you from?
My husband and I were both born in Seattle.
I see. And what did he do before he went in the service?
He was a professional baseball player.
Base... Lamino. Yeah, now I remember. He was a pitcher, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Oh, boy, what a story this is. Look, Mrs. Lamino, I don't want to bother you anymore tonight, but if you don't mind, I'd like to come tomorrow with a photographer and take some pictures.
Well, I guess it's all right.
Good, thanks. And thank you, Carl, for bringing me here tonight.
You're welcome, Joe.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Alvarez.
Good night.
See you in the morning.
Thank you, Miss Lamino.
I appreciate what you're doing, Mr. Fisher. Good night.
Good night. Good night, Alvarez.
Good night.
You know, Carl, this could be a mighty potent story.
Joe, is that all that means to you, a story?
I'm a reporter, Carl. It comes first. No matter what I may think, my job is to get the news to the paper.
Well, Joe, if you ask me, I don't think you're a very good reporter.
Huh?
Well, didn't it occur to you you ought to find out who the boys were who beat up Alvarez?
Yeah, I guess I missed the boat on that one, didn't I? Do you know?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, all right, come on, Gib. Who were they?
Eddie Walsh and, Bill Turner, your own son, Joe.
My Bill? Oh, Carl, you're kidding.
No, I'm not. He even threatened to beat up my kid if he ever told anybody about it.
But I can't believe it. Where did he ever get such an idea?
Maybe from you, Joe.
Oh, now, wait a minute.
Remember
Carl.
what you said to me the other day when we talked about this?
What was that?
You said you thought that all the foreigners should go back where they came from.
Oh, I was just talking.
Yeah, I know, Joe. But just talking can be a dangerous thing. Because no matter how you look at it, behind just talking, there's bound to be some basic thinking.
Yeah, I guess so. Thanks, Carl.
Joe,
Yeah,
you mind if I leave you with a thought?
I'm listening.
Joe, I don't know why you drifted away from the church. But if you remember anything you learned there, you must know that in God's eyes, there's no such thing as a foreigner.
Well, you may be right, Carl, but it's a lot easier said than done.
I know it's not always easy, Joe. And that's where you need the power of a real Christian faith. A faith I'm afraid you've lost.
But I haven't lost my faith, Carl.
I wonder. You know, Joe, at one time, you believed the Bible when it said that Christ loved the world.
That's right.
That he gave his life to save every member of the human race. Not just a certain class nor color, but all men of every race and every nationality. No man who believes that would ever shut out a human being from his concern, his respect, and his love. A man who really believes that Christ is the Savior of all men can't help but respect and love any man he meets, no matter who he is. Because anything else would be a denial of his faith.
I've been a blind fool, Carl. Thanks for opening my eyes. Thanks a lot.
That's good, Joe. Very good.
Well, I had a pretty good teacher.
You're doing a lot more than we talked about that night, Joe.
You know, Joe, this fourth article in your series is even better than your first.
Hi, Dad. Dad.
Hi.
Alvarez is going to pitch on our team.
Oh, that's swell.
You ought to see him throw a knuckleball. What a pitcher.
Father was a pretty good pitcher, too.
Well, it's like I always say. Like father, like son.
Looks like our boys have quite a team, huh?
Yeah, it sure sounds like it. When's the game, fellas?
We're playing the 23rd Street Giants Saturday at 2 o'clock.
Well, maybe Mr. Fisher and I could beg off and watch the game, huh?
Yeah!
Hey, boys, would it break training to have a soda?
No!
Set 'em up, Smitty.
What do you have, fellas?
Chocolate soda!
Wait a minute, one at a time. Freddie?
Chocolate soda.
All
Strawberry
right.
soda.
Bill?
Chocolate soda.
Good.
This one's on me, Carl.
This is Joe Turner's last article in his series on the Christian approach to brotherhood. And it was a mighty interesting batch of articles. He's done a grand job. And I think after the people of Middleburg have read it, there'll be more than Joe and Bill and Eddie who have learned about brotherhood from the story of Alvarez Lamino. Yes, sirree. Now, this world would be a lot happier place if each one of us had just a little more love in our hearts for each and every one of our brothers. Don't you think so?